But the problem there is if you sell your house first, then you have to rush to buy a house and make an offer of something that's on the market. At that time, so you don't have as much freedom and flexibility to be patient and find the right perfect house that you want to make an offer on. Welcome back to the Modern Agent Podcast. My name is Logan Ricchetti with Modern Realty. This podcast is a combination of thoughts and opinions on the real estate market in Midland, Michigan with our local real estate agents from Modern Realty. Our mission is to create informed and confident buyer and seller clients, so tune in to learn more about Midland's real estate market. Today, I want to talk about how to buy a house when you have a house that you need to sell. I have a lot of clients that run into this dilemma where they are in a house that they love, but it's time to get a new house, either a bigger house or a smaller house, whatever. They want to move across town, into town, out of town, wherever they want to go, but they have a house that they need to sell. And what that does is it puts them in a very difficult position to make an offer on another house when they're typically going to be competing with other buyers. So if you find yourself in a scenario where you are in a house and you want to get a new house and you don't know how to execute that strategy, there are a couple of different options that you have. So I want to break down those options today and go through the benefits and the risks of each option to help people understand what it really looks like if you find yourself in this scenario. So first and foremost, if you are in a house that you love, that you bought, and you have a mortgage on that house, then you either can buy another house with your existing income and credit, or you can't. And then if you can, you have a decision whether you will or you won't. So those are a couple of different dynamics. Let's break them down. Like I said, if you are in a house and it has a mortgage and you are the borrower on that mortgage, then you have a debt, and that debt influences the ratio of your debts to your income. So what happens is if you're looking at buying a new house, then you're going to finance that house with another mortgage, you need to go to a lender and ask the lender a few questions, and I'll help you if you want. The first question you ask the lender is, how much can I afford on a new house? And can I afford what I want while I still have my existing mortgage on my credit? In other words, if I don't sell my house, can I qualify to buy a new house that I want to buy in the price range that I want to buy? If I can, what does that look like? Now, what they'll do is they will run your numbers, your credit, your income, your assets, and your debt, all that stuff, and they will include your existing debt that you have on your house. And that ratio of debt to your total income either will or will not exceed the maximum allowable ratio. In other words, if your income is at a certain level, that your existing debt and this proposed new debt will exceed the allowable threshold, then you are not going to be able to get a mortgage on a new house while you still have your existing house and your existing mortgage. If that's what they tell you, then you know what your strategy has to be. And that is you have to sell your house first to buy a new house. In other words, you either have to sell and close on your house and then go move into an apartment or go move in with mom and dad or move somewhere else, or you have to make an offer to a new house to a seller that says, hey, I'd love to buy your house, but it's contingent on my ability to sell and close my existing house, which is fine. You can do that. The problem with that strategy is that the seller is less likely to accept that type of offer because there are so many more moving parts and so many more contingencies required that you must hit in order to perform on the purchase of the house that they don't really trust that you're able to do that. Or if they have another offer that's similar to yours that doesn't include that sale contingency, then it's a no-brainer for that seller to accept the other offer as opposed to yours. So again, what that means is if you have to make an offer that's contingent on the sale of your home, your offer is just not as strong as it would be if you didn't have that contingency. So that's the risk or the downside of that strategy, which is making an offer to buy a new house contingent on the sale of your existing house. It's safer because you can do it. It's safer because you don't have any worry about having to move somewhere in between. You don't have any worry about having two mortgage payments for an unknown period of time. So from that standpoint, it's much safer for you as the buyer, but it's less attractive to your seller, which makes that strategy not as optimal for you. In other words, your chances of success or your likelihood of success are much lower because of that contingency. Now, the other option that I just mentioned was if you have to sell your house before you can buy a new house based on your lendability, then go sell the house. Now, what's good about that is that you get it out of the way and you don't have the contingency when you buy a new house of the sale of your existing house because that no longer applies. So from that standpoint, it's good. But what's also another benefit of selling your house and closing on it first is it takes away the urgency to buy a new house. Okay. If you sell your house and close on it and you have another place to go, in the meantime, you don't have to rush your new purchasing decision, as opposed to having to rush both the sale of your house and the purchase of the new house if you're doing it with the contingency model. So from that standpoint, it's much less stressful to you. You can be much less aggressive on your pricing and your acceptance of your offer price because you don't have anything else contingent on it. So you can be a little bit more patient. You can negotiate a little bit more strength from a position of strength. And then once you sell and close the house, you no longer have that mortgage. So when you do go to buy a new house, you can take your time and you can make the best possible offer that's the most attractive to the seller because it's not contingent on the sale of another house. That's huge. And like I said, also, you can take your time so you can be patient with picking the right house to make an offer on. So from that standpoint, selling first does have a lot of benefits. Now, obviously, the biggest drawback to selling first is now you have to either make an offer quickly or you have to go to mom and dad's or an apartment or a hotel for a while. So you have this intermediate step that a lot of people can't deal with. Logistically, they can't handle that or they don't want to handle that, which I don't blame them. If you got 3 kids and 4 dogs, you don't want to move your family into an apartment for 3 months while you try to find a new house because you sold your house because you had to, right? So that's a bummer. Now, a lot of people, but the truth of the matter is if you have to sell your house before you can buy a new house, you don't have a choice. So that's what we do. We sell your house and then we either make an offer quickly that's contingent on the closing of the sale of that house, which is much more attractive than an offer that's contingent on the sale of that house. Now it's only on the closing of the sale. So at least you have a much better chance of getting your offer accepted. But the problem there is if you sell your house first, then you have to rush to buy a house and make an offer of something that's on the market. So at that time, so you don't have as much freedom and flexibility to be patient and find the right perfect house that you want to make an offer on. You're kind of limited to what's on the market at that time and you got to go figure one out. So if you're going to sell your house and then try to close on that sale and buy a new house and close on that sale together, then you got to be at peace with knowing that you're just going to make an offer on whatever happens to be available that meets the most of your criteria at that time, which is okay. But that's what happens in that dynamic. What a lot of clients don't realize is that if they can qualify to get a new mortgage on a new house while they still have a mortgage on their existing house, and therefore they could go out and make an offer that's not contingent on the sale of their existing house because they have the financial capability to do so, that strategy is not as scary as people think. Now, let's break it down. Okay, so the client wants to buy this new house. They have this existing house with this existing mortgage. And let's say that mortgage is, $2,000 a month or whatever. It's a scary prospect to say, hey, I'm just going to go buy another house and take another mortgage. And now that's going to be $3,000 a month because I'm buying a bigger house. Okay, that's totally rational to understand. But if that's the dream house that you want to buy and it's the house that you see your family in and you really want to get it, and because of the scenario, there's other offers on the table and you're not going to be able to get that house if your offer is contingent on the sale of your existing house. And if you know that your lender has confirmed that you could indeed buy that house and get a new mortgage and close on that house, if you chose to do so, then let's break down what it actually looks like. And let's break down how that risk may or may not be worth it for you to take the risk. And the answer isn't yes or no. The answer is here's how it sounds, but it's not as bad as you think. All right, here we go. Try to follow the numbers on this. On day 1, you make the offer on the new house. That offer will typically close 30 to 45 days from the day you made it, if it's a financing contingent offer, which it will be. So what you can do, just to make the numbers easy, is say, instead of offering to close in 30 or 45 days, we'll close in 60 days, but it's not contingent on the sale of your house. So let's just say they accept that, which it's very possible they would. Now, what that means is on day number 1, our offer gets accepted to the new house. We spin up, get ready to get your house listed for sale. Now we get your house listed for sale on day 2. This is just theoretical. Now, as your agent, have 60 days to sell and close your house before the day that you are going to close on the new house. So if we do a great job, we price it right, we prepare it right, it's very possible that we could get an offer in a week or 2, and that offer could close in 4 to 6 weeks too, and we could line up those deals to close at the same time or close to the same time, which would mean you wouldn't have 2 payments on 2 houses, which would be great because then you wouldn't have that financial risk of carrying 2 mortgages for an unknown period of time. So let's play this out a little bit more. Let's say we make an offer to buy a house today. It's accepted. We're going to close that 60 days later. And then on a couple of days later, we're going to list your house for sale and we're going to try to sell it so we can get rid of that mortgage. All right, here we go. If you close on the sale of the purchase of your new house on day 60, your first mortgage payment on that house will not be for until 30 days later, because mortgage payments are paid in arrears, which means they're paid for days that you already enjoyed the house. So your first mortgage payment on that other house will be on day 90 from today. Isn't that wild? A lot of people don't think about that. Your second payment will be on day 120, and then your third payment will be on day 150. So what that means is from day 0 to day 150, you're going to have 3 payments on the new house on day 90, 120, 150. So what that means for you is, in order for you to have 2 payments on 2 houses for 3 months, that would be, day 90, 120, 150, because you're going to have that mortgage payment on your existing house every month. In order for you to have 2 payments on 2 houses for 3 months, it would have to have taken you and I 150 days to sell and close your house. 5 months. The average days on market right now for home selling is about 2 months. So the chances of us taking 5 months to sell and close your existing house are very, very low, frankly. But if that's what it took, you would have to have made 2 payments on 2 houses 3 times. So in other words, in my mind, the absolute extent of the risk of buying a new house while you have an existing mortgage is that you might have to make 2 payments on 2 houses, maybe 2 or 3 times. So as long as you are comfortable with that possibility, then you can buy the house. You see what I'm saying? It's not Armageddon to have 2 payments on 2 houses 3 times. It's certainly not ideal. It's certainly not something financially brilliant to do. But if that's the house that you really want to buy and you just didn't realize that that's how it looks, hopefully this conversation has helped you to understand that you can do it. You can go and buy that house. You can make an offer on that house. You can stretch the closing date out on that house a little bit and make that offer not contingent on the sale of your existing house, which is what will make it appealing enough for the seller to take, which is great. And then you won't have a payment on that new house for 30 more days. So it's very unlikely in my mind, as long as we do the right things, to list and sell your house and close on it within 3 months. We can do it. We absolutely can do it. It might take 4 months if something gets extended or falls through or takes a little longer or whatever. But it's not going to take us 5 months to sell and close your house as long as you price it right and prepare it properly. It just won't. It's not very likely for that to happen. It's not a very likely scenario. In other words, to give you an example, in my entire career, I've done this dozens of times where I've helped somebody buy a house before they sold their house. It's never taken that long in any market condition that I've done business in a decade. So it's in my mind, it's a reasonably acceptable risk. If the house that you're trying to buy, that you want to live in, that you want to move to is available, it comes out and hits the market, and you just got to have it, but you are not going to have a chance to sell your existing house quickly enough to eliminate that chance of 2 mortgages and get that equity back and all those things. You can still do it. That's the point, is you can still do this. Another avenue that you can choose to do if you want is you could go make an offer on this house, and you could make it contingent on the sale of your house. And you could tell the seller that you will give them what's called you'll ask for them to give you a first right of refusal if they continue to market the house for sale and find another offer. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. You go to the seller, you say, hey, I'd like to buy your house. It's contingent on the sale of my house, but you can continue marketing your house for sale to other buyers until I get an accepted offer on my house. If you happen to attract another offer on your house that you want to take before I accept an offer on my house, all you have to do to take it is just to let me know, give me 24 hours to remove my sale contingency. If I can't or I won't do that, then you can accept the other offer. But if I can and I will, then I will remove my sale contingency and I will close within 45 days of that day. Now, this is a really good middle ground strategy or structure of an offer for both parties. Okay, obviously it's not ideal for the seller, it's not ideal for the buyer, but what it does is it eliminates some of the risk and it defers some of the risk of that period of time, because we go to the seller and we say, hey, seller, we want to buy your house, but I need to sell my house first, or I want to sell my house first. Will you accept my offer contingent on the sale of my house if I allow you to keep marketing your house for sale to other buyers? In other words, you'll be in the same position you were right now, marketing your house to other buyers. And so from the seller standpoint, if you're thinking about this from the seller side of the view, you say, hey, if the offer price is good, why not take the offer? Because I can still keep marketing my house for sale to other buyers. If I get a better offer or another offer that I want to take, then either I will force this buyer to perform or I'll get to take the other offer. Either way, I'm not losing or risking that much. The seller is not risking too much in this scenario because they have the bird in the hand and they're still able to go look for a bird in the bush. In the meantime, we as the buyer get the deal under contract and we get to start marketing our house. And it might take a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before that seller gets another offer. So that's free time that we were able to market our house for sale without having to, get closer to that closing day where we have 2 payments on 2 houses. So it defers that risk a little bit. And hopefully we get an offer on our house right away in a couple of days. And then we go back to the seller and we say, okay, seller, we have accepted an offer on our house. We would like to change the condition of the contract to being contingent on the closing of the sale of this house. And frankly, that's what we need in order to perform and proceed on this house. Are you willing to do that? And nine times out of 10, they'll say yes, because they want to move forward and you are the critical path, the shortest path to the sale of their home. So they want to work with you. So then now, the beautiful thing is all we have to do now is line up the sales. So now you've accepted an offer on your house. You have moved the deal on the new house to being contingent on the closing of the sale of this house, which is now underway. So now we can start talking about lining up closing dates and lining up occupancy dates and trying to figure out the logistics of this scenario. So for example, and this is tough, and I'm telling you guys, this is where your realtor can help you a lot, but it's not always up to them and a lot of things you can't control, but it's something that you need to really think through. So let's think it through. The seller is either in the house or they're not in the house. They're out of the house. If they're out of the house, this is no big deal. But if they're in the house and they need to move out, then we need to overlap some scheduling to make sure that all the parties in this transaction are covered. So I'll give you an example. And this can get really crazy, but I'll keep it as simple as I can. The buyer of your house has a logistical challenge. Either they're renting and they can stay in their house, or they're selling a house that they need to get out of, or they're moving into town and don't have a place to go in between, or whatever. They have some kind of constraint as to when they need to be in your house. You have a constraint of when you need to be out of your house, which is contingent on when they need to be in the house. And then from there, you have a constraint as to when you must get in the new house. Well, same thing with the seller. They have a constraint about when they need to get out, and that's based on when you need to get in. So we have to reconcile all those logistical constraints with these actual transactions. And this is where it gets very interesting and very complicated, but let's think it through. And this is what your agent does for you. This is part of your agent's job. This is why you get paid the big bucks. That's why you bring in an agent to help you figure it out. All right, here we go. We need to schedule the closing of the sale of your house on day X, but we need to ask for, and we need to get, and we need this buyer to agree to let us stay in the house for a couple of days after that transaction has closed. Let's just say it's 5 days, 3 days, whatever. The shorter, the better. Let's say 3 days to make it easy. So on day X, we close on the sale of this house. Now that we've closed on the sale of this house, we can also close on the purchase of the new house because we know that our house has closed. Now, ideally speaking, your agent sets these 2 transactions to happen at the same time, at the same escrow company, and escrow closes at the same time. And here's why. You don't want to sell your house on a Thursday afternoon and then schedule your closing on the purchase of the new house on Friday morning and find out that on Friday morning the sellers changed their mind. They don't want to settle with you because now you just closed escrow on the sale of your house. You got 3 days to get out of your house, and now your seller decided they changed their mind. Holy cow. That can happen. So that's why the logistics of how you schedule these transactions is so critical, and how your agent needs to guide you through the process to eliminate all the risks like that. Now, let's say we get both closings scheduled. We get them scheduled for 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock on a Thursday, which is great because now we can close escrow on both. We know everybody is secure and safe. We know we didn't accidentally buy the new house, by the way, which is something that could happen if you scheduled your sale, your purchase first, and then to find out your buyer backs out on the closing in the afternoon. That's just as bad because now you own 2 houses, which you didn't intend to do. This is why escrow and title need to be organized and scheduled accordingly, which is why we have a title company right in our office, which we can control the coordination of all these events, which is why you should use us to do this, and we can control it and keep you safe. Now, the logistics of occupancy are the next hurdle here. So we close on both deals at 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock on Thursday. You've told the seller that they can move in on Monday, or the buyer, they can move into your new house on Monday, and your client has told you that you can move into their house on Saturday because they need 2 days after closing to get out. And the reason why they do that is because they don't want to move all their stuff out of their house until you've closed on their house. And that's a very reasonable thing to happen sometimes, just like you didn't want to move out of your house until this buyer closed on the purchase of your house. Sometimes you do that. Sometimes you don't. It depends on the scenario. It depends on your exit strategy, where you're going, if you're leaving town anyway, or whatever. But if you're trying to move into a new house, you need to make darn sure that the sale of your house occurs and that the purchase of the new house occurs. And you need to know you have enough time. You've already packed all your stuff. You have it all ready to go, but you have enough logistical time on that Friday and that Thursday afternoon to pack everything up so that Saturday, the seller has packed up their stuff and moved their stuff out because they know you're coming now because they've sold the house to you. And now you have enough time to move all your stuff out, move it into the new place, and then hit the deadline for your buyer so they can come in on Monday and they can move their stuff in, which they're now going to be entitled to do. Woo! You see what I'm saying? It gets a little wild. It gets a little crazy. It gets a little complicated, and there's all kinds of room for problems. Keep this in mind too. You have an agent helping you. This seller probably has an agent. This buyer probably has an agent. So there's all these personalities. There's a lender helping you. There's a lender helping this buyer. There's an agent helping this seller. They might be buying a new house, which has a lender helping them. There are so many personalities, so many dynamics, so many problems. And then you have people that are not always super reasonable, or they're angry, or they get frustrated, or they get emotional, or whatever, or they have real constraints like they got to work on Saturday, we got to move in Friday, or whatever. And then somebody has to quarterback and deal with and coordinate with all these different personalities to make the ultimate objective happen. This is why I get very frustrated when I hear people say that agents don't earn their commissions. And it's just not true. Agents earn the commissions that they charge because these constraints and these challenges are very real. And it's literally the talent of the agents involved that make or break the transactions, because the agent's job are to help the buyers and the sellers and the clients understand what they have to do, understand what they have to concede, understand what they have to demand, and not relinquish, because some of these logistical things have got to get done. Otherwise, the transactions can't occur. So this agent has to explain to this buyer that they need to give us a couple of days of occupancy after closing. We, as the client, need to understand that it can only be a few days. It can't be 2 weeks. It can't be this long. And then on the same token, we need to make sure that we have occupancy within a certain period of time after closing, because we only have so much to move out before we get this one coming in behind us. So again, it's totally doable. I made it sound very overwhelming. It's not overwhelming. It's just complicated, but you can do it. All right. You can absolutely do this any way you want to do it. If you have a house that you want to buy, but you own a house with a mortgage now, then like I said earlier, the first thing we need to do is take you to a lender to find out if you can qualify to get that mortgage for that new house without selling your house first. If you can't, then it's okay. It's okay that you can't. We have a plan. We know exactly what we need to do. And now we don't have to rush the sale of your house. We can take our time with that, and we can get it ready. We can get it beautifully done, patiently, slowly, list it for sale at the right price, sell it and close it, find you a place to live in the meantime, whether it's a month-to-month rental or whether it's moving into the basement with mom and dad or whatever. And then you can take your time to find the next house you want to buy. When it comes up for sale, you can make an offer. It'll be great and strong because it won't have any of this problems. You can offer any kind of occupancy and close date to the seller that they need so that you can accommodate their needs, and it's easy. But if we find out that you can qualify to buy this new house without the sale of your house, then we know what we need to do then too. We know we need to be getting the house ready for sale, preparing it, decluttering it, depersonalizing it, running the numbers on the pricing and all that stuff, maybe even building out a listing. I've done this before where we've actually built out a listing with photos and descriptions and everything and had it ready to go, ready to turn on. So the day you find a house that you want to buy, you walk up to them, you make the offer. You either make it contingent on the sale of your house or you don't. We talked about that earlier. Again, you have that option to go either way. But once you decide which route you want to take, you make that offer. If they say yes, you say great. You get it under contract, you turn on your listing, and then we achieve our objective, which is to sell your house. We deal with the buyers, we deal with those scenarios, we coordinate the sales and the closings and the contingencies with the other deal if we have those, and we help you achieve your objective. So in conclusion, if you have a house to sell and you want to buy a new house, give me a call. I will sit down with you and I will help you to understand what your options are. I will help you to understand the risks and the drawbacks and the rewards, if you will, the risks and the rewards of every strategy. I will help you to find out what your options actually financially are. Once we know that, then I will help guide you to a decision, which strategy you want to take. Once we've come up with that decision, I will execute it and get it done for you. And I will help you to achieve your objective, which is to buy a new house, sell your existing house, and do it in the least financially painful way possible and with the least amount of stress possible without it falling apart. Give me a call. I'll help you out. Thanks. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Modern Agent Podcast. Please follow at Modern Realty Midland on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you need to buy or sell a house, please reach out to Modern Realty by going to www.modernrealty.us. Modern Realty, your home, our focus.